Hello, hello, hello. So I think this is an important video because if you're a young man and you're at least slightly based, right? You're like, I want to be based. I want to be red pilled. I want to be conservative. Yeah, fuck those liberals. If you're like that, or you have an ounce of testosterone in your system, you might have come across an old man named Dr. Jordan Peterson. And I personally believe that Jordan Peterson represents a huge danger. He's actually very dangerous. And I'll explain why. Because, take for example, a leftist, pink haired nut job. If they try to convince you or win you over towards their idea system, they're not going to do a very good job. They're not going to be very effective. And you're going to immediately recognize that this is someone you should not listen to, that has bad ideas. And you're going to very quickly discard them. So they're not dangerous. But someone like Jordan Peterson, well, he has a degree. He speaks with this kind of sophistry and this kind of intellectual performance and presentation that makes him come off like everything he's saying has to be true. Everything he says is so profound, it's so important. We must listen to what the great Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. I mean, how pretentious, first of all, Mr. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Do you want to list like your GPA in there as well? Might as well, right? So, but anyway, I'm already slamming him. I'm trying to be fair because I understand that a lot of men like old man Peterson. They like his kind of presentation, his front as this wise old father figure who's teaching you to be responsible and conservative. And I'm trying to show you, the audience, that that is a very soft, thin veneer, and behind that is a lot of bad stuff. And the big danger behind someone like Peterson is he does have a lot of male audience. There was a question asked recently where I think it was Kamala Harris or someone from the Democrat Party, maybe Nancy Pelosi, and they said, who are the young male role models on the left? And they were like, I don't know. They didn't really have anybody. They said like Harry Styles or something retarded. And it shows that the left has no role models. So we don't have to worry so much about the left, but I believe that Jordan B. Peterson is actually a leftist role model in disguise as a conservative. He is the actual leftist role model for young men because he's making classical liberalism, he is making nihilism, he's making atheism more palatable, more presentable, and giving it better credence than some of these crazy liberals on the left. He wears his nice little suits. He waggles his finger at you to establish the moral high ground over his audience. And he talks with these super affluent terms to make him appear untouchable. But let's actually look at some of the different things that Jordan Peterson is saying and see if this is someone that we should respect and represent. So we got this. First of all, we have him attacking Candace Owens. And let's actually start at the very beginning. I want to start from the angle that I'm coming at Peterson from. I'm a Christian. So I base most of my beliefs and ideas around this Christian paradigm, this idea that there's a God and he owns the entire universe. He has total power and authority and love. And he has commandments for us, right? That are not just there because he wants to be some kind of authoritarian, oppressive guy, but because he loves us and he knows what's best for us. He knows the danger of our hearts. I was raised Catholic. I'm still figuring out whether I want to become Catholic or maybe Orthodox or something else entirely. I'm still investigating my faith. I'll admit that openly. If someone's like, haha, you're questioning your faith. How are you going to talk about faith? Well, I'm at least investigating it, and I at least hold to, I'll say I hold to Catholicism for now, so I'm a Catholic, right? And I'm always open to investigating some things that the Orthodox say that are good, maybe some good things that other denominations want to bring to the table. Like, I really respect Protestants for their kind of evangelical efforts, for being out and open, hosting all these awesome youth groups, kind of integrating with the modern world in a smart, intelligent way, setting churches up kind of like a business, having them, be palatable and presentable to the open world, and not being this very like stiff, rigid, kind of unadaptive, uncreative kind of system. So I can recognize that there's good things and bad things about various denominations. But at the end of the day, I'm still fundamentally a Christian, and I think anyone who tries to weaponize somebody who's trying to genuinely investigate their faith and point that out and say, "Oh, you're actually at fault for that. You're shaky in your faith." It's not that I'm shaky, it's just that I'm trying to build an even stronger foundation. So right now I'd say I'm Catholic, and I agree with most of the things that Catholicism has to offer. I am kind of looking at Orthodox right now. That seems pretty cool. But I'm also realizing that where I am in the West, there's not a lot of Orthodox churches. There's not a lot of Orthodox communities. And that kind of matters too. I'm not going to pretend that I am completely devoted to the truth and what's true 100%. I also have to factor in, can I find a partner who's going to share those values as well? And are the minor distinctions in theology, are they really these big foundational, fundamental differences that completely change a paradigm? Or is it more Catholics have disagreements with Orthodox and they're both right in some areas and both wrong in some areas? That's where I'm not sure, because there are a lot more Catholic churches, and there is a lot more Catholic community in Canada where I am. And there's not a lot of Orthodox, right? So I might go to an Orthodox church to investigate, and I might find out that, oh, this is very weird. I don't like this culture at all. And I do think that matters. I think you have to approach it holistically. You have to look at all these things, and I'm human, right? So I'm going to want community. I'm going to want something that resonates with me, not just, is it logically true or not, like doing all these arguments, right? All right, but that all aside, I am investigating my faith, but by and large, I'm Christian. I've always been Christian. I've never once stopped being Christian. Like, I was never a Muslim. I was never an atheist, right? And I'm approaching someone like Peterson as a young Christian guy. I think that's really important, that when you understand my perspective, I'm coming at Peterson as someone with principles, as someone with an established worldview, who has a position on things and who isn't lost and floundering. And when I pick on people for admiring Peterson, I'm saying you guys should have better standards for yourself and for the prophets that you listen to, the people online. You should hold them to a higher standard, not just for them, but for yourself, because you don't want to be secretly ingesting a nihilistic worldview or someone who doesn't hold value in human life. And this is important. So I think that the faith component is really important. That's why I'm investigating it, right? And trying to build it up to be better. So I think that's really important. And if you're listening and you are someone who cares about Christianity and you think that's important, you think that's foundational, because I do. When I look at someone like Donald Trump, I'm like, sure, he's not left-wing, but he's not a Christian. So does he hold on to Christian values the same way I do? Not really, right? And I think that gets reflected a lot of the time when you look at the details of their actions. I mean, look at what Trump's doing for Israel, right? Look how much he's sucking up to them, and yet he's not really doing anything for Christians. I haven't heard him say he's going to subsidize and help out more churches or bring Christianity back to the West. He said, make America great again, but nowhere has he said, make America, white or Christian again. So I think these things are important, and I look at the foundations of the person, and one of those big foundations is going to be faith. But let's look at Peterson, because Peterson is attacking a lot of people. He likes to go after a lot of people, and he's gonna school Candace Owens on faith, which, like, isn't this ironic, guys? We have this Jordan B. Peterson, atheist, nihilist guy. He's going to start attacking Candace Owens and Fuentes on the basis of faith. He's going to tell them what Christianity is and how to use it and what it's supposed to mean and what its values are supposed to be. and try to shame and use shaming language on Christians, weaponizing their own religion that he doesn't even believe in, by the way, against them. So let's listen. Candace Owens, a true Pharisee, fuck. See what I mean, though? He's like, how I'm going to use this word no one else knows. It's Pharisee. It just means, like, the adjective of Pharisee, which is ironic because that's Jewish. Yep, derives from the historical Jewish sect of the Pharisees. True. So very ironic that we have this Zionist sympathizer, Jordan Peterson, attacking Candace Owen using the word Pharisee. Pharisaical. It's Pharisaical, okay. A true Pharisaical pretender. Very ironic. She vociferously, there we go, that's it, proclaims her devotion to Christ for no other reason than to elevate her perceived status. So that's a very, very bad faith interpretation, assumption about your faith. Imagine someone came to you and said, oh, the only reason that you're right-wing is because you want to elevate yourself above left-wing people. It's because you want to sit on a pedestal above everyone else. So he's already assuming things about her character, and he's not even giving her a fair chance out of the gate. That's also just not really an argument. So he's just slandering her about whatever. Her outrage is designed not to shout the truth, build bridges, or make peace, but to subvert Christianity itself with its new force to her own purposes. Okay, so he's vaguely gesturing how you're not using Christianity right. Nuh-uh. You're supposed to build us roofs and bridges and make peace everywhere. So already this guy has clearly no clue what Christianity is or what it's supposed to do. Christianity is not about peace, global peace, or building bridges. This idea that Christians are never allowed to engage in war, that Christians always have to be anti-war, which is also ironic because you guys are the ones initiating war in the Middle East, enacting genocides against each other, although mostly against people in Gaza. But us Christians, well, we're the ones who aren't upholding peace enough, according to Peterson. That's quite ironic. Building bridges and rooftops. Isn't your team, the Zionist Party, Peterson, the one blowing up rooftops and bridges? That's ironic, but anyway. But to subvert Christianity. Subvert. That's very ironic. He's using the word subvert because I would associate that with, being a bagel person, me personally. That's a very bagel person attribute. So when I hear that, all I'm hearing here is tons of projection. Pharisaical. He's throwing out crazy complex words to try to elevate his own status, like vociferously. And then he's saying, oh, you want to increase your status. No, that's what you do, Peterson. You throw out big fancy words and you slander and waggle your finger at people online because you want to raise your status. That's exactly the type of feminist, feminine, estrogenic kind of social games that a person from the social sciences plays. But sure, project all day. And then he vaguely gestures to, with its new force, to her own purposes. So she's this evil person trying to manipulate the strings of Christianity to serve her purpose. Like Emperor Palpatine sitting over there looking over the Senate in Star Wars. You're like, okay, so all of this is just very, very like self-aggrandizing, very elaborate, heavily emotional, heavily charged framing where he's basically saying, you're just evil Emperor Palpatine trying to manipulate the strings of Christianity to enact your evil anti-Semitic organization. So he's relying on this very emotional narrative, and he has to skew it to be this evil, horrible, contrived thing for him to be on the right team. Because if he took her honestly and he actually engaged with any of her points, and he was rational and he was calm about these things, then he would actually have to engage with the other side. So you guys will see this all the time. So we have Mr. Be responsible, be stoic, be in control, blah, blah, blah. And he's lashing out with these major emotional arguments. He's unwilling to engage honestly with the other person's perspective. Just like a leftist, he's attacking people with ad homs, using projection, and all tons of crazy stuff. And what's the context to this, guys? Well, there was this post recently. Let's go find it. There's a post recently with a paper that Peterson co-authored, or apparently co-authored. He signed off on it at the very least. Let's see if we can find Jordan Peterson's name. There he is. It's actually right on the front. Joel Finkel. His name is Joel Finkelstein. Are you kidding? His name is literally Finkelstein. Goldenberg. Come on, people. Yeah, he's right there. Look. He's right there. Jordan Peterson. So we have Jordan Peterson. And go find this paper, guys. This is really important. Because once it's put into a paper, it becomes this. It's a big deal, right? It's like, oh, look, they have a scientific paper. Anyway, so Peterson's the context of this, guys, is that there was a story put out recently about how Christ is King has become this blah blah blah, but it's really recently become anti-Semitic and it's evil. Basically, if you pronounce the Christian faith by saying Christ is King, you're anti-Semitic. Well, I'll actually respond to that. Actually, you're kind of right, because the problem is that the left and bagel people will just define anything that isn't pro-Israel or isn't pro-Jew as being anti-Semitic. Meaning, if you hold on to something, if you're a true Muslim, if you're a hard Muslim, if you're a hard Christian who doesn't cuck for every other religion, cuck for every other group, then you actually are going to be anti-Semitic. Because to be Christian means to be not Jewish. And it means to be against what it means to be Jews. A lot of what Jesus' teachings were admonishing the Jews and the Pharisees for acting Jewish, for engaging in greed, for trying to outsmart and skirt the law, outskirt the Sabbath, for trying to turn the temple into a marketplace. These are all very Jewish traits, and a lot of the moral teachings and condemnations in the Bible are actually against Jews. So if you are a true Christian, then you should be called anti-Semitic. It's an old phrase, but it is true. The Jews killed Jesus. It's true. And what that means is that they hate us. And we are ultimately against each other on fundamental levels, because we as Christians represent universality. We represent truth. We represent respect to God and his son Jesus, right? And there are deep fundamental theological differences that actually do make Jews and Christians not on the same team. They can't be on the same team because they're fundamentally different. One tried to kill our Savior and the other worships him, right? So that's really the significance and poignance of the Jews killed Jesus. It's that there is this antagonism between Christians and Jews that exists. And it's highlighted in this quintessential kind of like climactic moment of the betrayal and murder of Jesus Christ, right? Because if they had never done that, maybe we'd be like, oh, we had some bad blood, but we can kind of brush it over. There's no big deal. But that kind of solidified their stance against Christians and how they thought about Christians. And we see that again in the Talmud, where they talk about the Mary of Mother of God being a whore. They talk about Jesus Christ burning in a flaming pile of shit for eternity. Yep, that's something literally they have in there. They call him even in the Bible, they call him the king of demons, right? They say the only reason he can excommunicate, or what's it called? What's the word for that? What's that word called? What's that called? No, it's called exorcism. The only reason he can exorcise demons is because he was the king of the demons, right? So yeah, he's just going off on everybody. And he's going to tell us Christians how to be Christian, and that's something you guys need to worry about. But there was another one where he was attacking Fuentes. Let's go find him as well. Finally, if she wasn't the worst of hypocrites, she would forswear the Tate brothers. I will say Candace is a little bit of a hypocrite, but this is a very weak argument because all you're doing is you're saying, hey, look, they went back and forth on a position. The left and right go back and forth on positions all the time. Neither side is principled. That's all being a hypocrite really proves, is that the opponents aren't principled. But neither are you. You have no principles either, Peterson, so you're one to talk. There are few more unforgivable sins. That's ironic, using the word sins as the atheist, right? He's going to tell us what constitutes an unforgivable sin or not. This is exactly what I mean. Now this guy, he won't even say his name. The narcissists, hedonists, and psychopaths. So this is his thing. He's just like a woman, guys. You know how a woman will have an abusive ex and then she'll just say, he's the most toxic, abusive, evil, horrible guy ever. They'll do that for every single relationship, whether the guy's nice, whether the guy was just like chill and he's just like, hey, I think we should probably break up. I'm not really going to commit to this used up puniti. And then she'll be like, oh my gosh, he's toxic, he's abusive, he's evil. And kind of feminine individuals have this need to slander and frame the opposition in this huge emotional way as being this big evil bad guy. Oh my gosh, they're so evil, they're horrible, they're the worst thing ever, they're evil psychopaths and they're narcissists. So throwing around all these like emotionally charged feminine labels onto your opponents without making any actual good points, it just really shows that someone like Peterson really doesn't have any masculinity under the surface. The narcissists, the hedonists, and the psychopaths. You guys are evil psychopaths. Look at him flailing his arms about psychopaths. He's like a little woman who's freaking out that raiders have broken past the walls and he's just flailing around, throwing a hissy fit. Attempting to subvert the power of the divine to their own devices. That's exactly what Peterson's content does. He takes biblical analogies and he subverts them towards a atheistic, nihilistic, Jungian lens. That's exactly what he does. He's not a Christian. He's going to tell us what constitutes subverting the divine, subverting God. See, he says the divine. He won't say God, but it's literally God. He used it using God's name. Power of the divine. He's trying to generalize, which this is really blasphemy, by the way. This is heresy. Trying to, you won't say God. You won't say Christ. He says the power of the divine to their own devices. Well, that's a convenient, vague gesture coming from the atheist because he'll never say God. A warning, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Oh, let me waggle my finger at you. Look what the Bible says. Yeah, so another good classic case of the person who hates Christianity and the person who's against Christianity weaponizing what's in the Bible against us Christians, trying to tell us what our own book says. Imagine that, this atheist, old, feminist, weak, limp-wristed liberal coming in and trying to weaponize Bible verses against you, trying to tell you how to think. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. In that case, you're not getting in at all, because you won't even say that. The term Christ is king, blah, blah, blah. This bitch. Literally Joel Finkelstein. That's hilarious. And he looks so old. He looks like... He doesn't look good, guys. Look at this guy. He won't even throw in his own little comments. He won't say anything. The bitch is silent. And this is all very Jewish, guys. This kind of attitude of I'm just going to sling shade from Twitter. And I'm just going to flail around and get all emotional and get all upset and offended. This is exactly the leftist type of shit. Nick Fuentes says he's one of the first to use Christ as king. Yeah, and the purpose of Christ as king is to proclaim that we're Christians. Because you'll see a lot of times in the Old Testament, you'll see a lot of times in American politics that they'll reference God because they want to encapsulate all religions under this big tent, this inclusive big tent. But when we say Christ is king, it means that we are specifically Christian, and that's a proclamation of specificity and differentiation in our beliefs, where those kind of more meaningful differentiations become made known. Because if you say, I believe in God, that doesn't tell me maybe you're a heretical Muslim, right? Maybe you believe in God, but you believe in the flying spaghetti monster God. So just saying I believe in God doesn't really tell me enough to know whether you're a man of faith or not, or whether I can really trust you, or if we share similar values. So using a term like Christ is King is a way to pronounce your values in a bold way. Say, I believe in Jesus Christ. He was put on the cross. He was killed by Jews. I believe in Jesus Christ. Don't believe in Muhammad. Don't believe in no guy fucking smoking a blunt and having hallucinations out in the desert, right? No, I believe in fucking Jesus Christ himself. I like how he reposts it. He won't even tag on anything else. Right Wing Watch. So that's like what? So yeah, we have this Jordan Peterson guy who's going to attack Catholics like Fuentes and Candace Owens and say whatever you want about Candace Owens or Nick Fuentes, if you like them or don't. I don't really care. My point being that Jordan Peterson, the atheist, is going to... Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, you hypocrites. Literally using the words of Jews. You are like whitewashed tombs. This is so ironic, Peterson, giving you have no moral principles to stand on. You have no moral backbone. You don't profess any faith. You don't have any moral standards. So you're going to tell us we're hypocrites and woe to you and don't you ever... But he's waggling his finger at us. He's the hypocrite. It's so ironic, guys. So before I get right angry at this Twitter troll, this is the actual Twitter troll. He's throwing out all these pejorative, emotional hooks and baits out onto the social media. Let me explain to you guys why I think it's really dangerous to follow someone like Peterson and why I care a lot about him and less about other people. Is because I think as a young man, it's very tempting to fall for someone like Peterson because he sells an easy kind of overly simplistic message about masculinity and about responsibility, and he carries forward the aesthetic and the presentation of someone who's wise and knowledgeable and respectable. But he's not a Christian. He's not holding you up to any real higher standard. He's not judging you. He's not embodying any meaningful, deep, hard principles. So he's a very weak figure, and you see this in the fact that he raises a single mother with herpes. Nice, Peterson. Good job, Mr. Be responsible. And that's those are the fruits of your labor. Very nice. And it's very dangerous for young men because people like Peterson are a distraction. They are a subversion of what could have been a very emboldened Christian-based, authoritative, capable, rock-solid man. And he starts to go down this rabbit hole of right-wing content and taking the red pill, quote-unquote, right? And then he stumbles across Peterson, and because he's emotionally attached to Peterson, because Peterson was saying all these things and getting emotional on camera, and they both had a little cry together when he was a little too high on drugs, right? You watch a Jordan Peterson short, you're about 3 blunts in, you're fucking high as a bird. You listen to a Jordan Peterson clip, you watch him cry on camera, and you're like, God damn, I'm gonna cry too. And then you develop this emotional bond to this feminine bag of bones, right? And then as you start to approach more radical content, quote unquote, right? More actual right-wing content, you go, well, Jordan Peterson wouldn't like this. You've been brainwashed and you've been trolled by the Jordan Peterson in you who says, I'm not supposed to attack women. I'm supposed to take care of women and treat them like princesses. I'm not supposed to attack Jews. That's hateful and that's hypocritical. So people like Peterson hold men back from actually developing a true backbone in terms of their worldview and their perspective. And he can be very dangerous in that sense because he comes off as someone who's responsible and educated and an authority figure on right wing. That's really the danger of Peterson. He is an apparent authority figure for the right wing, and he subverts what could be genuine faithful Christians into nihilism, atheism, classical liberalism, whining and complaining on Twitter. But he is the Pharisee. He has no moral, spiritual backbone. He has no faith. He's going to tell you what makes being a good Christian or not, but he has no ethical standard. He's a nihilist. I'm a greedy, evil capitalist. I'll do whatever I want. I'll raise a single mother. I'll get addicted to benzos. He's the Pharisee. He has no responsibility in his life. How can he say he loves women and he cares so much about women if he raises a single mother whore who bangs Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate even gets famous? And all of his simps, all of his defenders will get so mad. I'm spitting straight facts. Those are all 100% true. I can provide receipts and evidence for all those things if I really gave a shit. Those things are all true. That's just being honest. That's being real. And that's what happens when you become liberated from these emotional attachments to people like Peterson going, well, I don't want to offend women. Or, my father figure, little daddy Jordan Peterson, wouldn't like that. So I'm going to steer clear of that. I'm going to avoid that. I'm just going to stick to stoicism and personal responsibility. And really what I'm saying too is also a broader attack on just stoicism or self-improvement. Because what self-improvement and what stoicism really does is it says, yeah, you can be right-wing, but only if you keep it to yourself and you use it to level up. If you want to express your political opinions out in the world or proclaim your beliefs out in the open, like saying Christ is fucking king, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, then suddenly that's not okay. You're a misogynist, you're hateful, you need to reflect on yourself, and you need to heal. And then you have these finger-waggling, shaming leftist liberals like Peterson come waggle their finger at you saying, go be responsible, go take care of a single mother, like my daughter, right? So, yeah, people like Peterson are dangerous because they're pseudo-right-wing. And there could be, and he has a big audience. There's a lot of people, a lot of little Christian cucks who like Peterson and think he's this intellectual superhero. He is not. He is a effeminate, principleless, flailing, soft science psychologist, failed father, single mother raising with herpes, benzo addict, atheist, nihilist, liberal, Zionist. And once you realize that, you're like, holy shit, this guy is a walking disease in terms of ideas. And why do we give him credit? Because he presents like a responsible man. He wears a suit. That's why. Because he waggles his finger at you and he wears a suit. And he talks about basic responsibility as a human being. Why do we give this guy all this credit? So I encourage people to hold their intellectual property, hold the space in your brain to a higher standard. Say, I need someone better than Peterson. Peterson's fine if you're a drug addict and you're just like square one. You need someone to hold your hand. But after that, you need to level up past being a liberal. A literal liberal, not just a leftist like cunt. I mean like an actual liberal like Peterson. You need to level up past that. And you need to be able to let go of Peterson. You need to be able to let go and evolve to something better. Something actually principled, something actually masculine with a backbone. And don't be attached to people like Peterson. Recognize them for who they are. Say thank you for the advice. You have good advice for men starting out. And you're fine if you're talking about psychology and you want to tell me about psychological science. That's great, Peterson. But I don't want to hear your political perspectives. I don't want to hear you talk about religious, faith-based arguments or talking about hypocrisy. We don't want to hear none of that. Thank you, Peterson, and good night.